morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. You can join today's board meeting via phone, dial 971-254-3149, conference ID 736-023-979#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us by going online to tctvonline.com and click on live broadcast. Masks, face coverings, or face shields must be worn in the courthouse by state order. Masks must be worn while giving comment. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to please mute your phones. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. So let's talk about public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us by 12 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners office, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. So, do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone registered online for public comments?
We do not.
No, not today. Very good. So, I'd like to welcome everyone, and everyone in the room, I'm hoping you've had the opportunity to sign our guest list. Let's start today's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Starr, would you read it, please?
I would be happy. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, we have no public comment. I don't believe we have any non-agenda items. We do have one change to our agenda. Agenda item number 16 has been postponed. And we're going to move up item number 15 to right after our next item, which is item number 5 on our agenda. This is discussion and consideration of a resolution in the matter of proclaiming March 2022 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Tillamook County, Oregon. And with us this morning, we have Janine Krongos, Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Good morning. Hope I didn't butcher your name too much.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
You
morning.
said it perfectly. Thank you.
you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for considering this proclamation request. My name is Janine Krongos. I'm the Prevention Coordinator at the Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Today I'm addressing you in consideration of proclaiming March as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Tillamook County. And I just want to provide a little introduction about problem gambling. So problem gambling is any time somebody experiences negative effects to their life due to problem gambling. These effects can also be others who are close to them that are also seeing those effects. And in the state of Oregon, many people experience problem gambling. It is estimated that 84,000 adults and adolescents in Oregon experience problem gambling. It's also estimated that 180 Oregonians are at risk of experiencing problem gambling. And this is a public health concern that affects both individuals and individuals and youth. And the Oregon Health Authority has estimated that 6,000 Oregon youth experience problem gambling. So I have a proclamation request, and I was wondering, would you like me to read it, or would you all like to read it?
That'd be wonderful if you could read the proclamation, please.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. So, gambling is an activity that carries risk for some people and may cause problems for individuals and families. Problem gambling is defined as continuing to gamble after experiencing negative impacts to one's life. According to the Oregon Health Authority, it's estimated that 84,000 adults and adolescents in Oregon meet the critical diagnosis of a problem gambling disorder. Additionally, 6,000 adolescents, 12 to 17-year-olds, are considered at risk for developing or have already developed problem gambling. Problem gambling, according to the Oregon Health Authority, cost Oregonians an estimated $500 million in loss of productivity, criminal activity, high rates of bankruptcy, and addiction problems. Problem gambling is a public health concern that can be prevented. Free and confidential problem gambling treatment is available at the Tillamook Family Counseling Center. To learn more about local problem gambling treatment, call 503-842-8201. To learn more about free and confidential treatment in Oregon, call the Oregon Problem Gambling Resource at 1-877-695-4648 or visit opgr.org.
Thank you, Janine, for reading that. Before I ask for comments from the board, I see we have Frank Hanna-Williams in the room. Frank, do you have any comments at all?
I don't have any additional comments. I'm here to support Janine and here to support the importance of the resolution today. And I want to highlight that this is certainly an issue which is brought forth by persons in Tillamook County and other places in Oregon, and nationwide. And I think the impact relating to individuals, to families, and the impact that is related to issues of personal and physical health, and obviously the lack of productivity as well. So, I'm here to support everything that the resolution has brought forth.
Thank you
And
both.
would be willing to answer any questions that you may have as well. Most of you would be willing to do that.
Thank you both to Frank
Thank you.
and Janine for being here. Comments?
So I just thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you highlighting this information for the community. You know, it strikes me that there's so much online gambling available now, and it starts with games that kids play. You know, I remember just my daughter Emily, you know, you're building a farm or something, but there's this chance that your chickens might lay 15 eggs, right? And you begin to get attached to that outcome, and if you don't get the 15 eggs, guess what? They'll let you buy them so that you can keep going and see if those chickens will have 15 eggs, right? And it seems so sort of benign at that level, but when you realize that what is actually being set up is this game of chance, and it's being set up for very young kiddos, and this expectation that they could win, that their chicken could have the most eggs. And again, it seems ridiculously simple and like, why is that a thing? But it can become a thing as you become attached to that need for your chicken to have 15 eggs, and if it's not, you're gonna buy another chicken. It creates a behavior. The other thing that's interesting, and I've seen it frequently, is the sounds that go with a lot of the gambling machines, the ding, 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 those kinds of things are embedded again in those same video games. And so it becomes this sort of patterned response. So this is a really important topic, and I think with the amount of time that everyone spent online during the pandemic, it probably has only gotten worse. I don't know if you have any statistics or anything that have come up around changes in gambling behavior due to the pandemic and the amount of time people have spent at home or any of that?
You know, in Oregon I do not, but I just read an article of New York State and it has increased. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned about the in-purchase games, and that is actually one risk factor. You know, having daily access to the games, you know, it's always available. And one thing interesting about the youth, how you mentioned the chickens and stuff like that, there's also options in these games to purchase loot boxes. And loot boxes are items that are unknown. They could be very valuable or something that is just regular. But it builds up excitement, and the kids want to win something like possibly $1,000 or more. So they will spend their money, and if you see at grocery stores, you can see gift cards for these kind of games. One other thing I want to mention for parents and everything, most of these games with in-purchase apps, they do store the parent's credit card on file. And there has been issues with the kids using the parent's credit card information, you know, because it is on file.
Yeah, that's a scary idea, and I've seen stories of that as well. So, yeah. I think the other thing that I would love to have you highlight, if you can, I know that we see online or on TV often, they suggest safety features for you to put in place for yourself if you are gambling for fun. Because of course we have lots of casinos and the opportunity that we can gamble for fun. And I know they always suggest set a limit, stick to your limit. Are there other things? That's the one that's stuck in my head. But are there other things that we might want to talk about to just help people gamble safely if there's such a thing?
Yes, thanks for bringing that up. Gambling falls in a continuum. So people that are at the legal age to gamble can choose how they choose to gamble. So it can be anything from abstinence to problem gambling. And if somebody would like to stay in the responsible gambling area, it's important to create responsible gambling guidelines. And those are rules that you set for yourself and your family. And it could be things like, do not use credit to gamble, set a time limit, set a dollar limit, do not use substances while gambling, and things like that. And also another really important one is creating balance in your life. You know, you want to make sure that you have other hobbies besides gambling and stuff like that.
Thank you, Jane. I appreciate the information very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner?
I am really glad to be recognizing Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and I thank you both for being here. In my first professional job, I was an alcohol and drug counselor, and in that time I had the opportunity to interact with a number of people who had problems with gambling. And the consequences can be devastating for people. I personally knew people who lost their homes, who gambled their rent, who gambled their mortgage, who gambled all their bill money, who got into debt, who attempted suicide, who lost their jobs, who went to jail. And it's devastating. And I think it's kind of hidden, you know, because it's not substance induced. And so it just kind of slides under the radar. And so I'm really glad to be talking about it openly, because not everyone has that experience, but some people do, and it can be absolutely devastating to their lives and their families. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we're talking about it. And can you talk a little bit about the treatment protocols that are available for problem gambling, and what if someone's watching this, what they can do if they or a loved one has problem with gambling?
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So if somebody is experiencing problem gambling or feels that they may be at risk, I would encourage community members to check out the OPGR website. There's a short evaluation that a person can take to see if they're at risk of developing problem gambling, or perhaps are already experiencing problem gambling. And if that is so, I would encourage you to call the Tillamook Family Counseling Center. We can do an assessment, and we will connect you to a problem gambling treatment provider. And our treatment provider's name is Holly, and she has special certifications to provide problem gambling treatment. The treatment, there's different aspects of it, but some important facts about it is there are ways that people can do a self-exclusion from casinos, talk about budgeting, and also do traditional counseling services. But if you want to learn more about the exact problem gambling treatment, I would highly recommend reaching out to Holly. And she is so great at talking about problem gambling.
Let me just sort of add to what Janine is saying. You're talking specifically about the treatment, and the person who is the provider will want to do an assessment and want to explore some issues around how the person, how gambling has impacted their life, and begin to develop a plan around that. So there's a lot of collecting of information. There is a process of doing a financial review, and sort of looking at how has money had an impact with that person, and what has been the purpose of gambling in their life. And you are familiar with addictions interventions, and it's very similar. I would also say that even there's a psychological payoff, and even in taking a look at brain scans of persons who are addicted to cocaine, they're very similar to the brain scans of the person who is a pathological gambler. Almost, so there is this emotional kind of payoff, and that is the piece where there needs to be some intervention. So, day-to-day living, making some decisions about how the impact, as Janine has shared. But there's a lot of talking and planning and reviewing and involving other family members to help in the intervention. So it's individual. Sometimes there's connections with other family members around the impact that this has had. So the counseling kind of focuses on several of those things. I'll probably mention 3 or 4 different things there, but it includes all that. The money, oddly enough, the money from that persons spend on gambling, there's a significant amount. There is a portion of that money which helps go towards the treatment. I realize it's a little bit of it might be a little odd philosophical connection, but in some ways, perhaps that's what should happen. I believe it's about 1% of all of the gambling dollars are used towards treatment. So when we talk about this, problem gambling intervention and treatment is free.
Thank you.
Can I add another thing? I wanted to really tell everybody that these services are also available for people in the family and also concerned others that are directly affected by the gambling. And I want to mention, like, you were talking about the stigma and sometimes how people are hesitant to seek services. Problem gambling is somewhat different than other addictions, because it's more hidden. There's not a lot of information about problem gambling and statistics. So people sometimes feel less comfortable talking to family and friends about it. So that's like how Frank was saying, that these services are free and they should be used if you are impacted by problem gambling.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And can I mention one more thing? The commissioner was talking about how problem gambling can impact different areas of someone's life, like, paying rent, buying food and stuff like that. But I want to encourage everybody to check out this new document from the Oregon Health Authority. It's called Public Health Impacts of Problem Gambling. It has some really interesting information about how problem gambling affects relationships. You know how it's associated with chronic diseases and also, social costs for the community. It's a really good document.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect. I want to thank both of you for being here today. This is kind of a hidden issue in not only this community, but in communities across the world. And it's been pointed out, and rightfully so, this is truly an addiction. and something that really needs to be taken care of. There are families I know that know of other family members or friends or relatives or neighbors that have these types of problems, and it's kind of a stigma, not something we like to talk about. But this is an issue that really, with proper treatment, counseling, this can be cured. It can be. And so we have to get over that issue of this being of this stigma, and really confront this, because these addiction to gambling affects families and friends and relatives, and it's something that we can't let continue on. So having these services available in Tillamook County through Tillamook County Tillamook Family Counseling Center and all, it's terrific. You don't expect small communities like ours to have these types of services available, and yet they are available. So appreciate you being here very much, presenting us with this proclamation today. It's very important, and I'm hoping that because of this meeting that is being publicly broadcast throughout the county, I'm hoping that people will take advantage of the services that we do have here in Tillamook County. So we appreciate you being here very much. We do.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, any further comments? We're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of a resolution in the matter of proclaiming March 2022 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Tillamook County, Oregon.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much. So here, we're gonna have a slight change in order of our agenda. We're gonna move to item 15, which is discussion and consideration of a letter of support to Adventist Health Tillamook regarding rural ambulance service drivers. Listed on the agenda is Rachel Haggerty, Chief of Staff, but today we do have the honor of having Eric Swanson, President of Adventist Tillamook, with us in the audience, and he wants to talk to this issue. Eric, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you for moving this up on the agenda, Commissioners. So Advanced Health Tillamook is the county's ambulance service area provider, providing services as set forth in Ordinance 41 and applicable state and federal laws. On February 17th, 2022, Tillamook County received a request from Advanced Health pursuing a variance authorized excuse me, by OAR 333-255-0070 sub 4 sub A. This variance allows, with the county's approval, Advanced Health to use non-EMS licensed drivers while providing rural ambulance services. At the Emergency Medical Services Council meeting on February 17th, this issue was presented and there was no opposition by the council to the county approving of this variance. So before you for consideration is a letter approving of that variance if you so choose. And so Advanced Health President Eric Swanson is here to provide some more background and the need for this variance request.
Thank you, Rachel. And thank you, Eric, again for being here.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me here. It's good to see you in person. This kind of goes full circle. My first job in EMS was an ambulance driver. And when I
Many years
turned
ago.
18, they hired me as a driver. And those were the days. We've now come full circle where we have a shortage of EMS providers nationwide. It's not just in Tillamook County, it affects this entire nation. If you actually see what Sean Baird, who's the president of the American Ambulance Association, said recently, that the field is just so daunting that there's EMTs and people are not wanting to become EMTs and paramedics. And that's very difficult for all of us. And Sean Baird knows this very well. He's right in Hillsborough. He works for Metro West Ambulance, which is the largest ambulance provider in the state of Oregon. They have Clatsop County, Lincoln County, Washington County, and a number of other counties. They've actually purchased 2 paramedic schools to help feed the open positions that they have. So this is a nationwide problem. I only became aware of this change in administrative rule a month or so ago, and we just want it as a tool in our toolbox. that we have only 3 current open positions for EMTs or paramedics that are full-time. We're working to recruit and fill those, but we need some other options that when people call in sick, can we hire a driver? For instance, there's an EMT class that just started that TVCC has. Can we hire some of those students to become drivers so they get some experience, they decide is this the right career for them, and we have the ability to backfill some positions and make sure that even if we have a paramedic, we've got somebody to drive that ambulance. And the administrative rule is very clear that they have to have a driving class, they'd have to pass applicable background checks, have a valid Oregon driver's license, and
It's important.
yeah, it's kind of important. And we just want it as a tool in our toolbox so that we have an option. And to get there, it requires your approval.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Comments, questions?
I'm fully supportive. I think it's great.
Yeah, I agree, you know, in this time of staff shortages everywhere, I think everyone is looking at creative solutions. How do we make sure that essential services can continue to be offered when the staff that we've traditionally relied on are just not all there? When, you know, we have open positions, we can't not have an ambulance respond. You
Right.
know, it's an essential service. So I appreciate the willingness to look and say, well, you know, right now we're good, we've got people that are making it, but what happens if,
Right.
so that we can continue to respond. So I'm very much in support.
Eric, again, thank you for being here. It's great that the EMS Council voted to just allow this to go through. There are shortages everywhere in personnel, but especially trained personnel. Very, very difficult to hire. You've got a tough job there, so we appreciate everything you're doing, and this makes absolute sense to me.
Great.
Another tool in your toolbox, as
Yes.
it were. Perfect. Okay, I think we're looking for a motion.
I'd just also like to mention how grateful we are to Adventist Health Tillamook for providing ambulance service. I think we're really fortunate to have this professional service in our community, and I'm glad to do whatever we can do to support your organization in that. But we're really lucky to have you providing the service, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We've been providing ambulance service in Tillamook County since 1974. And don't tell the rest of the hospital, but it might be my favorite department. And I absolutely love it that we extend the mission of Adventist Health right into people's homes where they need help. And it's our honor to serve this community.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I move approval of a letter of support to Adventist Health Tillamook regarding rural ambulance service drivers.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate it. Thank you, Rachel. Moving on to item number 6, discussion and consideration of a personnel requisition for a new returning retired employee, 150 days on call in the sheriff's office. And with us, we have Lieutenant Fernando Silvera. Good morning, Lieutenant.
Good morning, Commissioners. How's everybody?
Doing
Good,
well
thanks.
so far.
Thank you.
Well, just get right down to it. As Mr. Swanson mentioned, staffing issue throughout the whole state. We are fortunate that retiree Deputy Scott Kilgore and Dave Jungling are willing to come out here and help us with our staffing issues. That's the reason I'm here in front of this computer with you lovely folks today to ask for those requisitions to be approved.
Perfect. So, Lieutenant, I see that you've got 2 items, items 6 and 7. So each person, former Deputy Scott Kilgore and former Deputy Dave Jungling, each one of those is a separate item on our agenda. Is that correct, Rachel?
Yes. We're pretty cool.
Okay, so I think we need to take each one separately. So the first one would probably be for former Deputy Scott Kilgore. So, questions, concerns?
No, I think this is a great solution to the staffing shortage in the jail, and I'm really grateful that those folks are willing to come back and be rehired. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, agreed. As we just talked about, and I think as I read through the agenda, I think there's a bit of a theme on today's agenda around staffing issues and creative solutions. So I know that we are recruiting as fast as we can for many things in the county. I opened the newspaper yesterday and we had
an ad about a full page long of open positions here at the county. And among them are many for the sheriff's department. So I appreciate again the solution. We've got to keep offering essential services.
Perfect. I think we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of a personnel requisition for a new returning retired employee, 150 days on call in the sheriff's office.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And moving on to item number 7, same thing, discussion and consideration of a personnel requisition for a new returning retired employee, 150 days on call in the sheriff's office. So I take it, Lieutenant, this is the consideration for former Deputy Dave Youngblood.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Perfect. Discussion? Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of a personnel requisition for a new returning retired employee, 150 days on call in the sheriff's office.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Lieutenant, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Item number 8, discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of a notice of intent to award a contract for Oceanside Beach access. And with us this morning, we have Chris Slady, Director of Public Works. Chris.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, February 3rd, we opened bids to do some construction work on the Oceanside ramp, the beach access point there. We received 2 bids. First bid was for $181,837, and the second bid was $194,900. Both bids had issues with it. The first bid, the low bid, in their bid application or the bid submittal included a contractor's license. However, the contractor's license had expired by over a year. Prior to Joel going on vacation, he and I had chatted about that, and we had to reject that bid. The second bid also had a bid discrepancy, irregularity. They did not attach a bid bond. A bid bond is when you submit a bid, but we cannot accept it. We can use your bid bond to pay the difference of the cost to the next lower bidder. So in that case of the second bid, there was no third bidder, so a bid bond, there was nobody that we could tap into that bid bond to offset the cost between the second and the third lowest bidder. So the bid bond, while it is a requirement, it would have not actually been useful. So Joel and I had discussed, County Council and I had discussed looking at the waiving the irregularity of that contract, of the requirement for that. The contract document state item paragraph 1.171, rights of the board. It is the intent of the Tillamook County Board of Commissioners to award a contract to the lowest responsible bidder, provided that the bid has been submitted in accordance with the requirements of the bidding documents that does not exceed the funds available. Tillamook County Board of County Commissioners shall have the right to waive informalities or irregularities in a bid received and to accept the bid which, in the board's judgment, is in the county's own best interest. The last paragraph is of importance. I've got lost my thought process here, right? 1 second. The county may reject any bids not in compliance with all prescribed public contracting procedures, requirements, and other applicable laws, including the requirement to demonstrate the bidder's responsibility under ORS 279C.375, Prince 3, Prince B. The county may reject for good cause any and all bids upon finding of the county that it is in the public interest to do so. The county does have the right to, the commissioners do have the right to waive any irregularities. County Council and I believe that exercising the right to waive the irregularity of not submitting a bid bond is in the best interest of the county. We're into a period of notice of intent to award, which allows other contractors to protest. we identify that the likely person to protest this would be the other bidder, which they were the low bidder. However, they did not have or do not have a contractor's license. So weighing the risk, we believe I believe it's in the best interest of the county to award to the second bidder. So the notice of intent to award in this case would be to Lida Construction. Pretty quick here. To a notice of intent to award the bid of the Oceanside access to Lida Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $194,900 and $0 with a waived regularity of them accepting the irregularity that they did not submit a bid bond.
Okay, comments, questions?
I appreciate the explanation about a bid bond. I didn't know anything about that, and it seems like you and Joel thoroughly vetted it. So I'm excited that we're at this point and ready to move forward.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate that you and County Council spent the time to go through it. I would just for my own learning and maybe those who are watching, in the event that there is a protest, can you tell me what that looks like and what that process is?
So if they have 7 days in which to file a protest to the board, and it goes to county council. Should they protest that, then county council reviews the protest, determines if it is viable, and county council provides the guidance to the next step. At a minimum, it usually would result in a delay. I've been doing this for 24 years now, and I've only encountered one period where there was a protest, so it was heavily driven by county council. In that case, it was the city.
Thank you. And it sounds like you and County Council have clearly vetted that this is allowable, so ideally a protest would not be successful on this.
We believe so.
Okay, super. No, and I am also excited to get this done.
Mhm.
This project has been a long time coming, and we're all very excited to get it done. Hope to get it done before summer. So.
Yeah, Chris, I appreciate all your work on this. I know you've been working on this for years now. There have been some not our missteps, there have been some missteps along the way. This is also costing much more than we originally thought, but all the parties have stepped up to make everyone whole on this. The idea of bid bond, I believe, is a moot point, so it should not come back to us in any way. Do you think you can get this done before summer hits?
I spoke with the contractor, and we're on track to meet the contract deadline, which was, I believe, June 30th. So we still have confidence that we can make this work. We won't hit spring break, but we'll hit before summer truly gets off and running. Although when the summer actually starts in Oceanside right now is really the large question.
So true, so true. Okay, any other comments? I think we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of an order in the matter of a notice of intent to award a contract for the Oceanside Beach access.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. And Chris Lady, you've got the next item, also item number 9, a discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of declaring county-owned property as surplus. Hey, is that it behind you?
That is a very similar piece of equipment. This is the same year, same model number. We had acquired used military surplus of a 1975 Caterpillar tractor D7F. The VIN number is in the board order. We have an interest from Wasco County, one of the other counties in the state, has an interest in this piece of equipment. We researched the value of the property, and we have agreed, Public Works and Public Works have agreed that the fair value for this piece of machinery is $24,000. This falls under the Moore agreement, in which we have the ability to work directly with other counties and cities and ODOT to do work in the best interest of the public. So this surplus would be a direct sale to Wasco County for $24,000. They would pick it up.
Well, that sounds like a good deal for a 46-year-old tractor.
So is it going into their museum or what?
Well, we have pieces of equipment here that are still functioning and operating. One of our forklifts dates back to the early 70s. It no longer has a seatbelt, but it is a beast. It will do everything we need it to do and then some, and it will probably outlast the other pieces of equipment that we have in our yard. This is another one. Back then, when they built it out of metal, it was real metal. I have no idea what this weighs, but I'm sure it weighs a lot.
It weighs a ton, it does. No
Okay.
doubt. Any
A
further
little more than
discussion?
time.
I'll bet.
No, I'm from Wasco County, and of course, my family all still lives there, so when I'm home visiting, I'll just swing by the county yard and see if I can see this beast of a machine.
Ask him if you can take it for a ride. I think that'd be great. I do.
No, I think it's wonderful that we're able to work county to county, and certainly, all counties struggle to purchase the new equipment that we need to do our work, and if this is excess for us and can benefit another county, I think that's fabulous.
Okay, looking
All
for a
right.
motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of an order in the matter of declaring county-owned property as surplus.
I would say.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chris, and let's hurry and get that on a truck and on its way. Let's move on to item number 10, discussion and consideration of administrative standards for social media use for county accounts for the Department of Community Development. And I know Thomas Fiorelli was scheduled to talk about this, but I see we have Sarah Absher in the room, Director of Community Development. Sarah Absher.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. Yes, TJ was kind enough to submit the agenda item request for me. But I thought maybe since I'm the responsible party, it's probably best that I come and visit with you about what we've got going on. So as you know, the Housing Commission has been actively engaged in public education and outreach efforts. There's a subcommittee of the Housing Commission that is tasked specifically with our social media and public education information piece of what we're doing. And I actually set up a Facebook page for the Housing Commission shortly after the Housing Commission was formed. Given the work that was underway, we did not actively utilize that Facebook page at the time. Now we are in a different phase with the work with the Housing Commission, where that Facebook page is becoming a critical tool for us in public engagement and sharing information. And so we felt it was timely to develop a policy so that in use of this Facebook page for the Housing Commission and potentially other, projects the department is working on in the future, that we formalize that social media policy. It has been just me that has had that Facebook account and access to it since it was developed. But now with TJ as our housing coordinator, who's doing a fabulous job working with the subcommittee on getting information out to the public, it is appropriate, in my opinion, to also give him access to that Facebook page. With that, in case he's on vacation or something needs to be posted urgently, Allison Chase and Lynn Tone, who are other staff in our office, would also have the ability to access that page to help maintain it. So the policy before you just reflects our understanding of our responsibility and obligations, the liability of having this, and who ultimately has access to that social media page moving forward.
Questions, concerns?
No, I agree. We have had the series going out, What's the Story with Housing, that have just really worked to engage and educate in the community around our housing crisis and work that's being done through the Housing Commission. And I think, we all know in Tillamook, without significant daily access to other media, Facebook is just really a huge, huge driver of how information gets out. So having access to this is important, and I assume, and I've seen this is based on the county's Facebook policy.
Yes.
As has come from IT here, which is the new policy adopted this last year, and it's important that we get all of our existing Facebook pages out there onto our current county IT policy. So I appreciate you bringing us forward and getting us into compliance with IT's work.
And IS has reviewed that policy, so Jeff Underwood worked with us on that. We appreciate his help as well, so we know confidently we're in line with county policies.
Perfect. Don't take this wrong, but Facebook has become kind of a de facto public information provider, and has its moments. It can be dangerous at times, but having this standard in place with the county, I think, is important if you're going to have a Facebook page. So I'm full agreement here. Any other comments?
I'd just like to second Commissioner Scar's comments about the stories that are going out, the story about housing, what's the story on housing, those are really great. I think they're, yeah, I read them regularly. I know other people read them because they talk to me about them, and they are moving on social media, and they're well received, and I think it's a really good campaign. So yeah, you're welcome, and I fully support it, and I think that I think it's great if they're printed in the paper, but also people are really reading them on social media. So there are in fact dangers with social media, but also there are very good uses for it, and our community is using it, so it's a good way to communicate.
Okay, I think we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of administrative standards for social media use for county accounts for the Department of Community Development.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you, Sarah. Moving on to item number 11, discussion and consideration of the adoption of a revised Tillamook County Local 2021-2022 AFSCME Union Salary Schedule effective March 1st, 2022. And we've got John Blanchard, our treasurer.
Good morning, commissioners. Working with the previous HR director, she'd been updating the job descriptions for our AFSCME non-rep executive service positions. This is adding a survey technician 2 to the AFSCME collective bargaining unit salary schedule. It went, the job description went through, and Aaron Frost, our current HR director, confirmed with AFSCME that they had agreed to it. The information to separate out a survey technician 1 in range 10 and a survey technician 2 in range 12. That information just didn't make it down to me until Mike Rice, the county surveyor, brought it to our attention. So this is just adding a survey technician 2 to range 12.
Okay, perfect. Comments, questions?
I think that's great. We met with Mike recently, and he told us his strategy about hiring someone and training them to do it, and I think it's smart and fits in with the theme today of trying to solve recruiting problems.
Agreed.
Okay, looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the adoption of a revised Tillamook County Local 2021 to 2022 AFSCME Union Salary Schedule effective March 1st, 2022.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Sean, sit right there. You've got a couple more here. Item number 12, discussion and consideration of the adoption of a 2021-2022 revised part-time/temporary salary schedule effective, again, March 1st, 2022. Sean Blanchard.
Again, this is to add a parking ambassador for the Cape Colonna parking area to range 6 of the part-time temporary salary schedule.
Perfect. Important person to have available in South County. Really will be great for it. So I'm hoping we can hire someone that is going to love the job. I'm sure they will. Any other comments?
Oh, thanks to Rachel for working on this. It seems like endlessly. We've been trying to get somebody there to work on parking in Cape Colonna and trying to hire somebody. So fingers crossed for this recruitment.
Yeah, agreed. When we put the parking fee in and the parking kiosk in. The hope was that our sheriff's department would have time to assist us with the enforcement in the parking lot, and they have done some of that this year, but we know that, again, talking about all of these staff shortages, our sheriff's department is another department that is continually, seeking to hire people and has been challenged at providing full-time enforcement. So we're very hopeful that this park ambassador can kind of do two things, I think, one of which is to assure that people are seeing the kiosk and getting a ticket, but also just be an ambassador. So I think that's a great name for it, and I hope that we can find someone to do this great work.
Perfect. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, move approval of the adoption of a 2021 to 2022 revised part-time temporary salary schedule effective March 1st, 2022.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. One more, Sean, item number 13, discussion and consideration of the adoption of a 2021-2022 non-representative salary schedule, again effective March 1st, 2022. Sean?
So last one, this is to add a community health administrative manager for the health department to range 11 of the non-rep salary schedule. Marlene worked with Aaron Frost, also Donna Jagu and Rocky Phillips to create this position that is needed over at the health department.
Perfect.
Yeah, and the health department, as all other departments we've talked about, has really been working on hiring enough people into the right positions to continue to offer great service. And Marlene has been working on some sort of just planning for how we've lost some key individuals, and how do we restructure in the face of that to create something that will be sustainable into the future. So I appreciate her work on this, and I think this is another one of those positions that is part of that structure.
I agree. I'm in full support.
Perfect. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, move approval of the adoption of the 2021 to 2022 non-represented salary schedule effective March 1st, 2022.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Last item, item number 14, discussion and consideration of a software development agreement with LVSys, DBA Buildable for software development services. We have Damian Laviolette, Director of Information Services. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you mentioned, Damian Laviolette, Director of Information Services for the record. This item before you is primarily to support the tax and assessment world. And just quickly, I wanted to check and see if either Lori or Denise, who I believe Denise is not, but possibly Lori might be online as well. Might give her a second to see if she's there. Okay, so currently a tax and assessment has a small software application which is roughly 20 years old. The application that it bridges kind of some of the community development, Sarah Absher kind of DCD world, and some of the functions that tax and assessment use on a daily repetitive basis. And it is very old. And unfortunately, as Microsoft and our operating systems have been evolving, the application and software package, which was built by Tillamook County itself long ago, has not matured or evolved along with those, primary system upgrades. So what we're running into now is when we get new computers or we get new software, Office, Microsoft Windows, etc., the application needs to be manipulated or it doesn't work as expected or intended. So we were asked to work to get this into the budget. We did so, and we were asked to work with tax and assessment to find a good software vendor to build this application. We were able to do so, and we were able to work with them to build an application that's not only good for now, but we will keep this application maturing and evolving throughout its life cycle. there is, and I know this might be a question, there is the opportunity for us, depending on the successful nature of this software application, potentially selling it or leveraging it to other counties as well. So again, it brings a lot of upside with it, getting it refreshed. It brings a lot of value, getting it modernized, and it is something that we desperately need to have in that tax assessment, community development world.
I see this as a moneymaker.
Possibility, the possibility is there. So, most of the other counties are struggling, to modernize this very same function. And so if this is something that's successful for us, we might be able to leverage it to others. We will own the product when it's done. We did bring out several vendors to compete and come together to put together packages, and we felt very strongly about this current vendor.
Great, perfect. Concerns, questions?
No, I think it's great.
No, I think it's fabulous, so we have become very reliant upon our technology. And I think, from what I've heard, this is a really important technological tool to tie together community development and tax and assessment, so that we're not doing double entry, we're not worrying about things that don't line up. It's crucial. And, when we build our own solution without the opportunity to have it automatically updated, we find ourselves in these positions. So I was super excited to hear that this one had the opportunity to continue to be updated and to stay current, because technology moves fast.
It does, no doubt. Okay, I think we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of a software development agreement with LVSYS Corp. for software development services.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. So that completes our legislative administrative agenda for this morning. And we do have a 10 a.m. time certain public hearing. Time being 9:57, we are going to recess for 3 minutes. And we'll be back at 10 o'clock. Thank you.